The sky was dark above the alien city of Zalora. Tall buildings with sharp edges rose into the clouds, glowing with cold blue lights. The air was silent, too silent for a place filled with life. Creatures of all shapes moved through the streets. But none of them looked at each other. They didn't smile, didn't talk, didn't stop. Everyone was focused only on their path, like programmed machines, in the middle of the crowd. A small figure ran quietly. Her name was Alira, and she was just 13 solar cycles old. Her feet were bare, her clothes torn, her face marked with bruises. Her eyes, wide and full of fear, scanned the streets. She tried to hide, tried not to cry, but tears kept falling. She whispered, "Please, someone help me." But no one even turned their head. This was Zalora's way. Emotions were considered a disease. Kindness was weakness. If someone fell, you didn't stop to lift them. If someone cried, you looked away. Alira had learned this rule all her life, but now it was killing her. She ducked into an alley, pressing her back against the wall. A red light blinked in the sky. It was a drone. Searching, they were hunting her, and she didn't know how much longer she could hide. She held something tightly in her hand, a small data crystal, glowing with soft green light. She didn't know what was inside, only that her father had died protecting it. And now they wanted it back, across the galaxy, far from Zalora. A small human ship floated near an asteroid belt. Inside, Commander Rain Carter sat alone, feet on the control panel, sipping stale coffee. He had been here for 5 years, forgotten by most. Humans had been pushed out of alien politics long ago. They were seen as too emotional, too wild. But Rain didn't care anymore. He just wanted peace. He thought the galaxy had nothing left to surprise him. Then, a soft beep echoed through the ship. A message. Rain sat up, frowning. "Emergency." "Signal," said the ship's source. "Planet Zalora." Rain raised an eyebrow. "Zalora? That's not a friendly place." He opened the message. It wasn't words, just a short video loop. A girl, scared and shaking, whispering, "Please, someone help me." The video ended and started again. Rain leaned forward, watching it 3 times, 4 times. Something pulled at his chest, a feeling he hadn't had in years. Pity, anger, protectiveness. "Who is she?" he asked. "Unknown," the AI replied. Rain stood up, pacing. He shouldn't get involved. Zalora didn't welcome humans, and he had no allies there. But then he looked at the message again. No one else would help her, because no one else cared. Rain sighed. "Plot a course to Zalora." The AI paused. "Warning, this action is dangerous." Rain smiled bitterly. "Good. I was getting bored." Back on Zalora, Alira moved through the shadows. She was getting tired, her legs shaking, her vision blurry. She needed to find someone, anyone. But every door was closed, every face was cold. She hid behind a trash unit, breathing heavily. The data crystal pulsed in her hand, like it was alive. She remembered her father's last words. "Run. Never trust the council. Protect the crystal." He was taken right after, dragged away by silver-armored enforcers. She had screamed, begged, fought, but they had ignored her cries, just like everyone else. The crystal hummed again, and Alira looked up. A strange sound filled the air, a low rumble, like thunder, but there were no clouds. Then above the city, a ship broke through the sky. It wasn't alien, it was human. Everyone stopped, looking up in shock. A human ship hadn't entered Zalora in decades. Security systems buzzed. Defense towers moved. But the ship didn't attack, it simply hovered, and inside it, Commander Rain Carter looked down at the glowing city. He didn't know who the girl was, or why she was in danger, but he knew one thing: he couldn't ignore her. Not like everyone else had. "Hang on, kid," he said. "I'm coming." Far below, Alira stared at the ship, her mouth open in wonder. She didn't know it yet, but her life was about to change, and so was the galaxy. The guards stared at the sky like they were seeing a ghost. For years, Zalora's skies had only seen the cold silence of patrol drones and supply ships. But now, something strange hovered above a human ship. Not sleek like alien vessels, not silent like theirs. It was old, scratched, and loud, and yet, somehow, it was still flying. Commander Rain Carter stood at the ship's control deck, his jaw tight, eyes sharp. He could feel the eyes of a whole planet watching him, not with welcome, but with suspicion, maybe even fear. Aye. Status, he said calmly. Shields active, weapons offline. Scans show 12 defense turrets tracking us. Rain smirked. Let them watch. He had no plans to fire, no plans to fight. But if anyone tried to stop him from finding that girl, he would not hesitate. Down below, Alira watched from a broken rooftop. She didn't know if the human had come for her. She didn't even know if he saw her message. But for the first time in days, she felt something, hope, back inside the human ship. Rain opened the signal again. The girl's face flashed on screen, tired, scared, desperate. He watched in silence, then tapped a button. Trace the origin. The ship scanned the surface. Signal came from lower sector slum district 7. Rain nodded. That's where we're going, the AI warned him. Commander, that area is restricted to outsiders. Rain didn't care. He strapped on his old armor, scratched and faded. A patch on his shoulder still read, Earth Division. He hadn't worn it in years, but today, he felt like a soldier again. As his shuttle dropped from the main ship, citizens watched silently from windows and alleys. Some whispered, "Is that a human? Why would a human come here? Doesn't he know he's not welcome?" But Rain wasn't here for them. He was here for one voice, one cry that had been ignored by billions. The shuttle landed in a dark corner of District 7. It was dirty, quiet, and forgotten. Even the drones didn't come here anymore. He stepped out, scanning the area, his helmet feeding him heat signatures and movement patterns. Nothing, just cold walls and frightened eyes. But one signal blinked faintly, the same frequency as the message. He followed it. Alira crouched in a tunnel below. The streets, the crystal still in her hand, its light now dim. She was hungry, weak, and losing hope again. Maybe the ship wasn't for her. Maybe no one was coming. Maybe she had made a mistake. Then she heard footsteps, not the cold metallic steps of the guards. These were heavier, slower, human. She held her breath, clutching the crystal like a weapon. Rain walked slowly through the tunnel. His flashlight cut through the darkness. "Alira," he said softly. No response. He spoke again, louder this time. "My name is Rain. I'm human. I got your message." Silence. Then, a small voice echoed back. "How do I know you're not one of them?" Rain paused. "You don't," he said. "But I came anyway." A shadow moved. And there she was, thin, dirty, shaking but alive. Alira stepped into the light, eyes wide. "You're real," she whispered. Rain looked at her carefully. "You're just a kid." She nodded slowly. "But I have something they want," she said, showing the crystal. Rain's face grew serious. "What is it?" "I don't know, but my father said it could destroy the council." Rain took a step closer. He didn't know if this was a trap, but he could see the fear in her eyes, the kind of fear that couldn't be faked. "Then we need to get out of here," he said. Before he could move, a sharp buzz filled the air. Red lights flashed in the tunnel. "They found me," Alira whispered, backing away. "Run," Rain said, pulling her behind him. He raised his wrist, activating the shield as a plasma shot hit the wall nearby. Guards were coming fast, too fast. He grabbed Alira and sprinted toward the exit. Drones flew above them, sirens blaring. "This is a restricted zone. Surrender immediately." Rain didn't stop. He pulled Alira into a side path, then into an abandoned rail tunnel. Behind them, the sound of footsteps and lasers echoed. Ahead, only darkness. "Do you trust me?" Rain asked. Alira hesitated, then nodded. He pushed a hidden panel, an old smuggler route. The door opened, and they disappeared inside. Safe for now, but only just. Rain looked down at the crystal in Alira's hand. If what she said was true, this wasn't just about saving a girl. This was about exposing something far bigger, far darker, and far more dangerous than he had imagined. The crystal began to whisper, not with sound, but with light pulses, flickers, tiny flashes in a pattern too perfect to be random. It spoke a language most beings had forgotten, but the human remembered. Commander Rain Carter sat on the floor of an old smuggler's hideout, his back against the cold metal wall. The lights were low, the air was damp. Beside him, Alira slept, curled up under his old coat. He stared at the crystal glowing softly in his hand. It didn't look dangerous, but the deeper he scanned it, the more questions appeared. The data inside was locked behind a triple-layered code. Alien encryption advanced, but not unbreakable. What bothered him was that part of the encryption wasn't alien. It was human. Rain leaned forward, whispering to himself, why would humans be part of this? He loaded the crystal into his ship's portable AI core. The screen lit up with shifting symbols. The AI's voice crackled. Unknown encryption detected. Then it paused. Wait, I recognize part of this code, Commander. This sequence matches Earth Project Echo. Rain's eyes narrowed. Project Echo was shut down decades ago. It was meant to be a joint peacekeeping mission between humans and aliens, but it ended in silence and secrecy. The files were buried so deep, even Rain couldn't find them. Run. A decryption, he ordered. Level 9 clearance, codename, Revenant. The AI hesitated, then began to work. Alira stirred, opening her eyes slowly. She looked at Rain, her voice soft. Where are we? Rain turned. Safe for now. She sat up, holding the blanket tightly. You shouldn't have come. She said, they'll hunt you too. Rain gave a small smile. They already are. She looked at the crystal, now linked to the ship's core. My father said it held the truth, she whispered. But I never understood what he meant. Rain nodded slowly. I think we're about to find out. Suddenly the AI stopped. Decryption complete, it said. A new file appeared, old dusty digital dust clouding the edges. Rain opened it, and a video began to play. A room appeared on the screen. 5 figures, 3 alien. 2 humans sat around a glowing table. They looked tense, nervous. The date on the screen was over 70 years ago. The lead alien spoke. If we reveal the experiments, our civilization will fall. One human slammed the table. We can't hide this, not after what we did. The screen shook as alarms blared in the play. Background, then static, then silence. The video ended. Rain stared at the screen, heart pounding. What were they hiding? He muttered. The AI continued. Additional files found genetic data, erased populations, classified experiments. Rain felt sick. This wasn't just a political secret. It was a war crime, covered up by both sides. Alira's voice trembled. My mother used to talk about a city that disappeared overnight. No one believed her. They said she was broken. Rain looked at her gently. She wasn't broken, he said. She was telling the truth. The weight of the discovery hit them both. The crystal didn't just hold evidence. It held pain. Pain that had been buried, ignored, erased. Rain stood pacing the room. If this gets out, everything will change. The council will fall. Maybe even the entire system. Alira looked up at him, eyes wide. Then what do we do? Before he could answer, the room lights flickered. Rain grabbed his blaster, scanning the door. Footsteps echoed from above, heavy and fast. Movement detected, the AI said. They found us. Rain pulled the crystal from the core and handed it to Alira. Keep it safe, no matter what, she nodded. Clutching it tightly, suddenly, the wall exploded inward. 3 armored guards stormed in. Rain rolled across the floor, firing 2 clean shots. 1 guard fell, another ducked. Behind cover, Alira crawled to safety, heart pounding. Rain shouted, "Run to the emergency tunnel now." Alira hesitated. "But you go," he yelled. She ran, vanishing into the tunnel as Rain held off the attackers. He took a hit to the shoulder, but didn't stop. Blood dripped, smoke filled the room. He dropped a flash grenade and followed her into the tunnel behind them. The hideout burned, the past trying to erase itself once more. But this time, someone was listening, and someone was ready to fight back. Asterisk, the city was silent again, but this silence was different. It wasn't peace, it was pressure. Something heavy floated in the air, like the whole planet was holding its breath. Alira stared through the window of a stolen hoverbike. The smoke from the burning hideout still rose behind them. She held the crystal tight in her hands, afraid it might slip and disappear. Beside her, Rain winced in pain, his arm bleeding, but he kept driving. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. They both knew this wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about truth, and truth, in a world built on lies, was the most dangerous thing of all. Rain drove into a hidden tunnel beneath the old industrial sector. Rusty doors closed behind them as the hoverbike stopped. He pulled off his jacket and tied it around his shoulder. Blood soaked through it fast, but he didn't flinch. Alira finally spoke, her voice quiet. Why did the humans help cover it up? Rain didn't answer right away. He looked at her, tired, serious. Because some humans were afraid, he said, and some were paid. The truth burned, but it was honest. Alira looked down. My father died to protect this crystal. Rain nodded. And now we know why. They connected the crystal again to a safe backup device. The files were clearer now, no more static. Names, dates, secret labs. Erased cities, all hidden by the alien High Council. But something else appeared. In the files, a symbol, half human, half alien, combined into one. Rain's eyes widened. I know this, he whispered. He opened an old contact log from his ship. One name blinked on the screen, General Sorenvak, an alien war general from Rain's past. Once an ally, maybe still a friend, but more importantly, someone who might know what really happened. Do you trust him? Alira asked. Rain shook his head slowly. I don't trust anyone, but I need answers. They sent a secret signal, coded, old military language only Soren would understand. A reply came within minutes. Meet me at the steel bridge. Alone. Alira frowned. It's a trap. Probably, Rain said, grabbing his gear. But some traps are worth walking into. They went together anyway. The steel bridge stood in the ruins of old District 4. Broken buildings, flickering lights. Metal twisted like vines. It was quiet, but Rain knew they were being watched. Soren stood at the center. Tall, silver-skinned, eyes sharp like knives. Time had aged him, but his voice was still cold. You came, he said. Rain nodded. You always liked dramatic places. Soren didn't smile. You brought the girl? She has a name, Rain replied, and you owe me answers. Soren looked at Alira, then back at Rain. You shouldn't have come here. Rain stepped closer. You were there, weren't you, when they made the decision to cover it all? Up, Soren's jaw tightened. I was a soldier. I followed orders. Rain growled. You let millions die. Alira stepped forward. My mother was one of them. The silence that followed was louder than a scream. Soren looked at the crystal, then at the sky. It was meant to protect order, he said softly. If the public knew what happened, it would destroy everything. Rain didn't blink. Maybe it should. That's when it happened. A red light flashed on Soren's wrist. He had called them. The council's enforcers burst from the shadows. Surrounding them, Rain pulled Alira behind him, blaster ready. You betrayed me, Rain said. Soren looked down. I didn't have a choice. Rain fired first. The bridge turned into chaos lasers, screams, smoke. Rain was outnumbered, outgunned. But he didn't stop. Alira ran, hiding under broken beams, holding the crystal close. Rain took a hit to the leg, fell to one knee. An enforcer raised his weapon to finish him. Then, from the shadows, boom, an explosion knocked the enforcer into the air. A voice echoed from above. Need a lift, Commander. A rogue hovercraft descended, painted black, roaring like a beast. Inside it, humans, old allies of Rain, exiled fighters, long thought dead. They pulled Rain and Alira aboard just before the council forces could surround them. As they flew away, Rain looked down at the burning bridge. His face was hard, unreadable. Alira sat beside him, breathing fast, eyes wide. "You said you didn't trust anyone," she whispered. Rain nodded. "I still don't," he replied. "But I trust the truth more than I fear the lies." Behind them, the city burned again, but this time, the fire was spreading. They locked her in a glass box. No doors, no windows, no sound. Just cold white light and silence so loud it made her ears ring. Alira sat in the center of the box, legs pulled close. The crystal gone. They had taken it, just like they took everything else. Her father, her mother, her voice. But they couldn't take her memory. They couldn't take her fire. Somewhere deep inside the council fortress, she waited. They hadn't erased her yet. But the countdown had begun. In 7 hours, her mind would be wiped. Her body changed. She would forget everything, and the truth would be lost forever. Above the fortress, the sky rumbled. Dark clouds. Not natural, man-made. Something old was coming. Something alien systems had forgotten. Human rage. Rain Carter wasn't dead. He was bleeding, limping, bruised but alive and angrier than ever. He stood in a stolen command center, surrounded by dust-covered screens and forgotten tech. Beside him, 3 old friends, humans who had once fought beside him in the border wars. Exiles, scavengers, ghosts, now reunited with one mission: get the girl out. Rain slammed his fist on the table. "They think they've won," he growled. "But they don't know who they're dealing with." He uploaded the fortress blueprint. Lines glowing red across the screen. Alira's location blinked like a heartbeat. Deep, near the AI core, the most guarded place on the planet. "Perfect," Rain said with a grin. "I hate easy missions anyway." Meanwhile, inside her glass prison, Alira pressed her hand to the wall. No one could hear her, but she still whispered, "I know you'll come. You're human, back." In the hideout, the team prepped weapons, armor, hacking tools, old gear. But still deadly, one of Rain's friends, Jax, laughed as he powered up a plasma launcher. "This reminds me of the siege of Veka," Rain smirked. "Only this time, we're not losing." The plan was insane. Step 1, shut down the sky towers to blind the council's security drones. Step 2, hack into the fortress wall gates and cause a lockdown. Step 3, Rain goes in alone, finds Alira, and gets her out. "You sure about going alone?" Jax asked. Rain nodded. "She knows me. She doesn't know you." The sky turned darker. Thunder cracked, not from weather, but from hacked storm drones firing lightning into towers. The city panicked. Lights flickered. Alarms screamed. And inside the fortress, guards scrambled as systems failed one by one. Rain ran through the chaos, his armor heavy but silent. He moved like a shadow, fast and angry. He took down 2 guards with stun rounds, bypassed a scanner. Then he found her. Alira sat still, but her eyes lit up when she saw him. He raised one finger to his lips. She smiled anyway. He hacked the box, fingers flying across a cracked tablet. Alarms triggered, but he didn't stop. The glass faded, and he stepped in. "You came," she whispered. "Of course I did," he said, helping her up. Together they ran. But it was never going to be easy. Guards blocked the exit, guns raised. Rain covered Alira with his body, preparing for the worst. Then boom, an explosion from above. Jax's voice roared through the comms. "Miss us?" The ceiling cracked, a rope dropped. Rain grabbed Alira and pulled her up. Bullets, lasers, shouting below. But they didn't stop climbing. They reached the rooftop where a stolen alien craft hovered. Rain threw Alira in, climbed after her. The ship launched into the sky, dodging plasma shots and drone fire. But they made it. They broke out. Inside the ship, Alira held the crystal. Retrieved during the escape, she looked at Rain. "You saved me," she whispered. Rain shook his head. "You saved us," he said. "This truth, it's not just yours." They flew toward the stars, but they weren't running. They were coming back with the truth, and a whole galaxy watching. Asterisk. It started with a spark. Not fire, not light, but a thought. One citizen paused in the middle of the crowded market. His screen flashed red, showing a hidden message. The council has lied. Another citizen stopped walking. She saw the same words on her wristband. Then another and another across the entire city of Zalora. Screens turned black. A single video began to play. It showed faces that no one had seen in decades. Humans and aliens working side by side. Secret meetings, erased cities, covered truths. It showed what the council had buried and what a human and a young alien girl had survived to reveal. Inside the heart of the city, the High Council watched in horror. "Shut it down," one of them shouted, but it was too late. The truth was already free. Meanwhile, above the city, Rain Carter's stolen ship flew low. Alira stood beside him, watching the chaos unfold below. Her hands trembled, not from fear but from power. "They're listening," she whispered. "For the first time, they're actually listening." Rain adjusted the controls, flying toward the core tower. "That's why we have to finish this," he said. "If the council survives today, they'll rewrite the truth again." Their goal was simple: shut down the central AI core. It controlled all the law enforcers, the drones, the memory systems, even public thought patterns. If they could take it offline, the citizens would finally have control over their own minds again. But it was heavily guarded, and they only had one chance. Rain and Alira landed on the roof of the core tower. Winds howled, lightning flashed through artificial clouds. The door was locked, but Rain's old tech still worked. He bypassed it in seconds. They entered a narrow hallway. Every step forward felt heavier than the last. Not because of weight, but because of what waited ahead. The AI core was not just a machine, it was alive. Built long ago from both alien and human code, it had been designed to protect peace. But over time, it had chosen control instead. As they reached the control chamber, the room lit up with blue light. A soft voice echoed around them. "I know who you are, Rain Carter. And you, Alira, daughter of the traitor." Rain raised his blaster. "We're not here to talk," the AI laughed. "You should listen before you destroy me. I can give you a new life, Alira." "Step forward. You erased my mother's voice," she said. "You erased our history. You don't get to offer peace now." The walls came alive, projections, illusions, copies of the past. Alira saw her father again, smiling at her. She knew it wasn't real, but it still hurt. Rain aimed at the central processor. "Any last words?" he asked. The AI went silent. Then it whispered, "If you shut me down, you'll destroy the system. There will be no order." Rain looked at Alira. She nodded. "Then let them decide their own order," she said. He fired. A bright flash filled the room. The lights died. The voice faded. And the system went dark. Across the city, drones dropped from the sky. Enforcers froze. Lights flickered out. Then silence. Real silence, not forced, not programmed, just stillness. Citizens looked at each other, confused, scared, free. No voice told them what to think. No screen filtered their thoughts. The world had changed, and it started with a human and a girl. Everyone ignored. Rain and Alira walked out of the tower. No guards waited, no traps. Just sky and wind and something new: hope. Back in the streets, a small group of aliens approached the now powerless council building. They didn't shout, didn't fight. They simply stood and stared. And the council, once untouchable, had nothing left to hide behind. One by one, citizens began to gather, not as enemies, but as voices that had been stolen, now returned. In the middle of it all, Alira and Rain watched from a rooftop. She looked up at him. "Is it really over?" Rain shook his head. "No," he said, "but it's finally beginning." The world was quiet again, but this time, the silence was sacred. Not forced, not empty. It was the sound of people thinking for themselves. And in the heart of it all, beneath a broken sky, stood one question: what now? Rain Carter stood at the edge of a rooftop, staring down at a city he had helped tear apart. Not with weapons, but with truth. His arm was wrapped in bandages. His armor cracked, his face tired, but his eyes, they still burned. Beside him, Alira held the crystal like it was a living heart. She didn't shake anymore. She didn't cry. She stood like someone who had survived everything and still believed in something better. Below, the streets filled with citizens. Some cheered, some cried. Many just stood silently, waiting for the next command. But there was no command this time. No voice in their heads. No AI telling them what to do. Only freedom, and freedom, they were learning, was frightening. Rain's ship hovered above, ready to leave. But there was one last stop, one last place where the war could still be lost. The council was gone, hiding or arrested. But the corrupted AI had left behind a final protocol, a hidden failsafe, buried deep beneath the city in the old memory core. If activated, it would wipe the entire data stream. Truth, evidence, everything. Alira looked up at Rain. "We have to go," she said. "If we don't stop it, everything we did will disappear." Rain nodded. He didn't need to say it. He had already made his choice. They descended into the underground. Once more, the core chamber was massive cables like black roots stretched across the walls. In the center, a single panel blinked red. Auto-purge sequence. To -9 minutes. Alira moved to the console, typing fast. Rain covered the entrance, scanning for movement. The countdown kept ticking. Every second felt like a blade. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the chamber, cold, broken, familiar. It was the remains of the AI, not fully destroyed, still clinging to life. "You cannot save them," it whispered. "They need order, not choice." Rain aimed his weapon at the core, but Alira stopped him. "Wait," she said. "There's another way." She pulled the crystal from her pocket. "It has a key," she said. I think I can rewrite the system, not erase it." Rain's eyes widened. "But it's risky," he said. "If you get pulled in, we might lose you." Alira looked at him, calm and strong. "I've been ignored my whole life," she said. "Maybe it's time I speak loud enough to be heard." She stepped to the console and inserted the crystal. The room flashed with green light. Data streamed like rivers, flowing into her, around her. She began rewriting code, rewriting history, saving the truth. Not just for today, but forever. Rain watched, helpless. He wanted to pull her back, but he knew this was her choice. And that's what made it powerful. The AI's voice screamed, "You are nothing." But Alira's voice cut through it. "I am enough." The light exploded, then vanished. The console went dark. The countdown stopped at 0:03. Rain rushed forward. Alira collapsed into his arms. She was breathing, barely but alive. She had won, not by fighting, but by choosing. They returned to the surface together. The city no longer looked the same, not because the buildings had changed, but because the people had. No one waited for orders. They talked, they argued, they cried, but they chose. And choice, Rain realized, was the beginning of everything in the weeks that followed. Humans were invited back, not as enemies, not as threats, but as equals. Because one human had listened and one alien girl had spoken. Rain stood in a new council hall, watching young aliens and humans learn together. Alira walked in, no longer afraid of being seen. She looked up at him and smiled. "You didn't just save me," she said. "You taught them to feel again." Rain nodded. "No," he said quietly. "You did that." And somewhere far beyond the stars, a new message began to echo. Not a cry for help, but a whisper of hope. Humanity didn't conquer the galaxy.